At 6 a.m. on a quiet morning in 2026, 30,000 Oracle employees received a termination email. There were no meetings with managers, no human resources representatives on the line, just an automated script running in the dark, cutting off system access while people slept. The algorithm executed the cuts blindly. It severed health insurance for employees actively battling cancer, and it locked out pregnant women who were weeks away from delivery, right alongside 20-year veterans of the company. These were highly skilled professionals. For years, they operated under the assumption that their technical expertise and deep loyalty provided an invisible shield against economic hardship. The 6 a.m. email serves as a high-resolution signal that the traditional contract between loyalty and security is governed by a different set of rules. Psychologists call this trap enmeshment, the slow, dangerous process of blurring your human identity with your corporate job title until the two become completely indistinguishable. But if we look at this through the lens of enterprise systems engineering, the company never viewed its workers as indispensable architects. You were a high-salary battery, slotted in to power a specific corporate function. System architecture operates on cold mathematical logic. When a power source becomes too expensive compared to newer alternatives, the system unplugs it. There is no malice involved, only absolute efficiency. The deep psychological trauma following a modern layoff stems directly from this realization. You discover you are functioning as a disposable power cell in a machine that no longer requires your energy. Oracle had just reported a quarterly net profit of over $6 billion. Yet, they executed this massive purge to aggressively free up $8 to $10 billion in annual cash flow. That newly liberated capital had an immediate destination. The company committed to a staggering $156 billion expansion of AI infrastructure and data centers. We are watching a zero-sum trade-off play out in boardrooms across Silicon Valley. Executives are actively cannibalizing human payroll expenses to purchase the massive GPU compute power required to train large language models. This is a deep structural shift. When a company takes on over $50 billion in new debt to build data centers, they're locking their future into a model where processing power, not human headcount, is the primary asset. Human capital is no longer a protective moat. On the balance sheet of the AI era, it is treated entirely as payroll friction. IT engineers use a concept called the single point of failure, a critical node that, if it stops working, brings down the entire network. We need to apply this exact same diagnostic test to your family finances. This diagram shows the standard middle-class financial architecture. A massive, heavy block of long-term liabilities, like a 30-year mortgage and monthly living expenses, is balanced entirely on one thin central pillar. That pillar is your single T4 salary. Proposing an IT network with this single point of failure would get you fired. It's guaranteed to collapse. When an algorithmic layoff severs that single income node, the result is immediate mathematical failure. The liabilities don't pause. The entire structure crashes. Relying on a corporate paycheck as your baseline security is a structural delusion. The corporate system is built to protect its own grid, leaving you completely exposed. To solve a single point of failure, you have to stop thinking like a battery and start operating as a systems architect. In engineering, the only fix for a central failure is to build a multi-node architecture that decentralizes risk. This logic is the foundation of the MoneyCaddie 6+1 framework. It replaces the single T4 pillar with a modular system. A sturdy brick wall anchors the base, while debt management, tax strategy, investment, retirement, and estate planning act as stabilizing columns. This framework operates on zero-trust logic. It assumes from day one that any external corporate income source is compromised and will eventually fail. True financial security cannot be granted by an employer. You have to engineer it yourself through a decentralized, multi-pillar network that you completely own. The +1 in this framework represents the side business. We define this not as a weekend hobby, but as a mandatory expansion of your system's income bandwidth. In engineering terms, a side business creates structural redundancy. It acts as a hot backup server, ensuring that if your primary T4 salary goes offline, your financial architecture continues to run seamlessly. Deploying this upgrade requires a psychological prerequisite: identity decoupling. You have to actively sever your self-worth from a fragile corporate job title. Instead of the obsolete defensive strategy of shrinking your lifestyle to survive a crisis, you take the offensive. You leverage accessible AI tools to multiply your output and expand your revenue. This is the evolution into the solo architect. Utilizing AI agent networks, you build autonomous, scalable value that exists entirely independent of legacy corporate structures. Stop draining your life energy to power someone else's failing system. It is time to architect your own indestructible reality.